What's going on, boys? Joe Throws here. A little different today. My second time guest, Maddie Bro, for the bullpen conversation here. Maddie, how are you tonight?
I'm fantastic. How are you, Joe?
Drinking some OJ.
I'm getting ready to go to your hometown tomorrow, so I'm excited.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to
I mean,
Tampa.
nice and sunny. I bet it'll probably be like 70s or 80s down
When
there.
do you guys fly down?
Wednesday. Yeah, we got
Nice.
Curler, Stu, and yeah, Curler, Stu, and TJ are driving down Tuesday or tomorrow. Either tomorrow or Tuesday.
Why?
I don't know.
We'll talk off air.
Yeah, we'll talk a little later. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Be fun though. It'll be fun going down to Florida. I want to get down there and, play some meaningful games for once. We haven't even been on a field yet, so
Yep.
be good, be good. So, today is not really like about our own stories. Maybe a little bit, but you're a coach, I'm a player, but I help out a lot of the guys on our team and I've figured out pitching really easily last couple, not easily actually, tough the last couple of years. But what's your what is the most important thing when going into like being a good like coach for a pitcher, especially like at the age of the college level when they are so like in their bodies to where like they're so used to what they've done their whole life.
I think it's probably understanding that there's no one size fits all solution to every single player. Um, I have over 40 different athletes that I work with, and one thing that I'll tell one guy isn't necessarily going to work for the next guy. Everybody's got different body sizes, the way that they use their math, we're just their mass, their hip anatomy that we were just talking about off air. There's so many different things and so many different variables that go into it. So knowing an array of different cues and how to set guys up, and how to coach guys with mindsets that are different too. Like, um, I have dudes that are in the Superdome constantly, and those guys I want to keep away from talking too much mechanics. I want to keep those guys away from watching their own film and just kind of using my eyes. So understanding where every player is at, what's good for them, what's not, is probably what's most important.
Yeah. Do you think that I think that there's guys you literally can't talk about with mechanics, and there's the guys that understand mechanics to the point where it's like it's all good. But like if you talk to that one guy and you're like, man, like you can't tell him anything because once he gets in the game and he's just completely like isn't competing, he's more just like placing the ball and you know, I've had my experience with that, my fair share of experience with that. So I completely understand where that's coming from. So yeah, I think the mental game is deeper than mechanics, especially as a pitcher. What do you teach your athletes, to like understand like it's deeper than just mechanics?
Yeah, so now that we're, kind of done pitch design, we're done the velo phase, we're now getting into live at bats as high school starts in a month for high school baseball season here in Vermont. So I'm starting those mental conversations with our players. And that once you get out there, you got to trust your training, right? A lot of my guys have been in with me since November training, once, twice a week, nonstop. You're ahead of the game that guys that are not training. So trust that training once you get out there. You're ahead of the game in that regard. So when you're to that point, all you got to do is compete, right? You shouldn't be thinking about mechanics. You shouldn't be thinking too much about cues. You might have one cue at the end of your throw, but it can't be multiple things. That's where guys get screwed up. So um, I really emphasize power of the breath, taking that nice deep breath. It's because then the only thing you're thinking about at the moment is the actual breath. So whatever worries that you have, they go out the door. Brain science shows that actually relieves stress in the moment as well to actually take that breath. Um, so there's a lot to it. And then kind of at a more advanced side, when I have runners on base, I remember at Linden, we kind of talked about the 1, 2, 3 count when it comes to picking guys off, right?
Yep.
1, 2, long hold. What I'm doing for my younger guys and what I find to be better and more deceptive is I actually start counting with the breaths. So, and then my guys are more inclined to actually breathe as well. So if they got to run on first base for 1 count, it's just pick off. That's their quick move, right? Say
Yeah.
they want like a long hold. Maybe they have a third breath, and then they go back to first base. And that's when a lot of it happens, and you kind of see the raising of that shoulders too. It looks super deceptive as if you're about to go to home plate, but you're never going to get called that for a balk.
Yeah,
So
no. Yeah.
I've got that ingrained in my guys, the breathing. Um, and then a really important piece after that is the visualization. There's also brain science that shows that if you actually visualize doing something before you do it, you're probably more apt to do it. You kind of get that little endorphin boost after seeing success in your mind. And that way you actually have a plan before you throw the baseball, which is the 100% biggest thing. You can see guys that just go up there, they just throw it with no plan and the ball's high, and then they throw the next one, it's way outside, and you're like, where are you trying to throw that thing? When you go and talk to them, and they're like, I don't know. I'm like, exactly. You don't even know what you're trying to do right now. You actually have to think about what you're doing.
Yeah,
um
I completely agree with that. I was so stuck in that what we just talked about with like mental game and um like just throwing the ball and not thinking about what I'm doing every single time I'm out there, every single time I'm in a weight room, every single time I'm doing mobility. It's like I'm thinking like what do I need to do to be successful? And it's like I think it's really hard for someone to understand that up here early on in their career. Um, Obviously it's like people that got to believe in you. For me at least that's what it was, and then it was like okay, like it's more instead of pitching mechanics, it's go out there and win a game. So when a guy tells you, oh, like why are my mechanics bad? And in the middle of a game, or they just struggle to even like come close to like competing, like you know, do you just have a big talk with them, or is it just like refocusing on what the task is at hand?
yeah, for so depending on the athlete that we just talked about, right? Maybe they're a guy where I can handle giving them one cue and then they're fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I tell them to think about it, it's just going to screw them up even more. So really knowing your personnel on the mound when you go for a mound visit is important. Um, but really, a lot of it is mental, and you just got to tell them to go up there and compete. Most of the time for a mound visit, it's, yo, are you going through your process? Are you breathing? Are you visualizing? And are you using your word for that execution aspect? So you're actually throwing with intention. And a lot of the time, high school baseball, it's no, no, coach, I'm not. And I know that I should be. It's at that 90% of the time. And then sometimes when they do tell me that they are, you can just tell that their intention to do it is just not there. It's like they see it, but then they're just not like through the glove. They're aiming at a spot, not through a spot.
Yeah, yeah, it's huge. Aiming at the spot versus through the spot is completely different, especially for guys at the college level. I mean, I see it all the time. I mean, it's more of like placing the ball instead of like, I'm gonna freaking get this guy out. I don't care what pitch it's on. I'm gonna dominate you. I'm gonna embarrass you. Like just saying those things for me at least really boosted my performance only because I believe that I was better than the hitter. And like a lot of old school like a lot of old school coaches, talk about pitching to the point, pitching to where you should pitch to, and versus new school, it's all about velocity. Like tell me what you think about, is new school, obviously has an advantage over the old school. Do you think old school's out of date?
Really depends on what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It also depends on the guy. Like you could you could say those old school things to a certain guy and it may work. Whether they're right or wrong is completely different. It's just how their bodies are going to naturally react to whatever we say. We could say something that's completely wrong, but if their body does the right things, right, then who cares? It's like
Yeah.
say you keep missing outside, right? You tell them, all right, throw inside, right? Now they might be hitting the outer edge of the outside corner, right? So they're still not doing it right to what they're trying to do, but you trick their mind into doing certain things. Um, there's definitely things that I like to get rid of some of those old things, kind of like pushing off the rubber. That's like my big pet peeve that I don't like. We got to get rid of that. Hershiser drill, I hate with a passion. Um, I don't know. I got a lot of bad advice growing up, and as a coach, biggest thing is leave your ego at the door and be willing to learn new things, and also be willing to drop everything that you think you know. That's the only way you're
Yeah.
gonna with the times.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Like I'm still like you told me before my senior year, this is my senior year before you told me this year like this is your learning year. You're going to learn the most and I've learned the most. You know, it just comes down to like I think it comes down to like understanding your own body and like I don't know. I think a lot of coaches, they don't understand how to like use that like your throw in a way to where it's going to maximize your velocity and your command. And how do you see that in all of your athletes? Like, do you see how are you able to gauge to where okay, I know how to teach this guy how to throw versus this guy's completely different? Like, or do you try to do the same thing? Obviously, I hope not, but who knows?
It takes time. I don't know a lot of the players when they walk in, as this is kind of my first year, so you really have to get to know them. You know, you start them up with the routines that you should be doing mobility, you should be hitting your bands, you should be having a dynamic warm up. So that all kind of stays the same, and then we hit the plyo wall and we watch, and then we go see into throw, and then stuff becomes pretty evident right away. What are their weaknesses and what are their strengths. Um, and then knowing how to attack it once you learn the attitude and the character of the player as well.
Yeah, I think I think that has a lot to do with it too, because even like at the college level, like I'll see guys that just they'll just rip they'll be starting to play catch with like a 7 ounce plyo ball or 8 ounce plyo ball, and I'm like they're cutting the shit out of it, and I'm like,
And
but
if I may, there's been a lot of times this winter I have a guy, ninth, 10th grader, and I'm trying to get them into positions, but I said this last pod that they're just like not strong enough to hold them. So it's
uh,
right. Your focus has got to be in the gym, or your focus has got to be mobility. Um, so sometimes, like, you don't need me as much right now until you figure this out is kind of
yeah,
important for these guys too.
yeah. Do you think like taking time off from throwing is important for certain guys, or do you think throwing all year is? I mean, I think throwing all year is better for older guys, but do you think that it's more of like there's some certain off seasons where you have to focus on the weight room or focus on mobility or focus on losing weight or focus on gaining weight? Like, is that better than just, ripping plyo balls and sitting 71 on the mound?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the guy and timelines when you need to compete. Um, if you're a guy that is underweight and you don't have a strong foundation, then yes, you're the lowest hanging fruit is to, like you say, is to hit the weight room, and that's got to be your focus, right? If you weigh a buck 35 going into your freshman year, that's got to. But obviously, I am a big fan of throwing year round.
Yeah.
I don't recommend to guys taking 2 3 months off and then expecting to get out back out there the next spring and just have it all happen. No, that's not how it works.
Why do you think like why do you think a lot of guys up north, I know like it's the weather and everything and I get it. Why, ever since playing up here since my freshman year, I feel like there's been a lot more people that have taken a lot of time off from throwing, especially in the off season. Do you think that plays in a role to like ramp up and like throwing periods and bullpens and lives? Like, Why do they do that up here? Is that just a ritual? It's been that like that for since of course, we say the old school days.
Yeah. So, up until the last 10 years, we only have like one facility coaching guys that have played baseball in the winter. And now we have three. So, yes, guys in Vermont for the longest time, half of them still are that aren't training in the winter. We're not throwing baseballs from the end of October until March. So that's pretty ingrained in our culture at this point. And then I think it's a lack of understanding how injuries happen. Everybody's got kind of like their own opinion on, the Tommy John epidemic, but and everybody says, well, it's because everybody's throwing 100 now, or kids are throwing too much. And the answer to that is yes and no.
Yeah.
It just goes way beyond those things. But to think that you can simply pick up a baseball after 5, 6 months and get to high intent, in a month's time is just absolutely ridiculous. And that's why we see so many injuries in just a 16 game season here in Vermont.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think it's like to the point where like many guys don't just play baseball. Well, now it's a lot better for Vermont, but I don't think a lot of guys played just baseball up here. But in Florida, where I'm from, obviously it's way different. I mean, we start January 2nd or 3rd when we come back from winter break, and coming up here, you don't start until February, and you don't get on the field till April. Well, if you go on a spring trip or not, but
Right.
it's a lot harder. It's not easy. Like the snow's going to be out there till April, but you got to find a way. Like in high school, did you not like where would you throw a cage? In the
I did.
winter, like when you get, huh?
I didn't. I
Yeah,
didn't. I was on a Legion / travel team. And I was one of the few on my team. So I played catch on Sundays, occasional bullpen as we got closer, but that was it.
yeah, that's insane to me because in high school, I remember in the off season, we would throw no, yeah, we would do our fall season until about end of October, early November, and then we would do like conditioning and weight room stuff, and then we take 2 to 3 weeks off of just like everything, and then we'd throw, but we were still throwing. Like we were getting out there before we went to the weight room. We would throw, and then we come back, hit a lift, and then like we do med ball work, like the 2 pound med ball stuff. I've been doing that since high school, man. I remember we had this pitching coach, and he used to hammer that. And I think most of our guys gained 4 to 5 miles an hour that off season because because we were able to be on the field. Like we were able to like get out there and just produce as much force as we could. And like, yeah, I mean, and then once January came, we were firing all cylinders for the spring season to
Yeah.
where up here you gotta wait. It's like a waiting game up here. It's like a grain of salt that's just like you're just waiting to fall through.
Yeah. I also didn't have the same mindset. Like I considered myself a hardworking player comparatively in high school to other people. And looking back, it was like, wow, I didn't do anything. Like I was not training every day like my kids that I work with now. I didn't get into weightlifting until my sophomore, junior year of high school. I'm throwing 1 day a week. This stuff just doesn't make sense. We wonder why, forever this state wasn't producing professional talent, but now that we have kind of these indoor facilities,
Yeah.
more of it.
What's your biggest coaching pet peeves? Like, what's your biggest things that linger you or give you that, what are we doing here?
From players or other coaches.
Players, but you can say other coaches as well. I'd say
Um,
both, actually.
Players. So if you know me off there, I'm a pretty chill guy. I don't really care about much, and I'm pretty loose. But I get pretty pissed off when teammates are being bad teammates. That's kind of my number one thing. Or if we're
Yeah.
going being completely irresponsible off the field. Uh, those are the things that really matter to me. The individual, that the actual character, the actual person, versus the player. Teaching these guys how to be good young men is the most important lesson, and we can learn a lot of lessons through baseball. And if you're not going to be a good teammate in high school, you're definitely not going to be a good teammate in college. Um, it's just those are when you got to learn the lessons, and people are going to be hard on you when you first get in. So you got to be ready for it.
Yeah, I mean, there was something that happened. I won't say any names, but I mean, bad body language for a cage BP session in a live AB session. Just shaking your head after every single time you're missing a spot by a few inches, and you know, it baffles me like how many guys like in college baseball still just don't act their age, and it's like it's embarrassing to me because like we'll be, they'll just, it's literally just a live AB session. It really doesn't matter at all. There's no runners on base. There's nobody in the stands. The game doesn't matter. And you're complaining about a meaningless umpire that is only going to make you better, especially in games when you're playing in the NAC. Because the NAC umpire has got to be the top tier worst umpire I've ever seen in my life. And
Multiple umpires.
and man, it's crazy to me. I don't know. I don't get it. And over the last 3 years, like, I love playing here and it's been awesome. But
Because
there's
parents
just
are so, dude. They're not teaching it to their kids in little league, and they just it
yeah,
goes touched and
and it's all up here. It's all result based, and that's my other thing. Like, it's the results don't matter until like the results don't matter. If you're a results based person, you're never gonna see success, never. And I'm telling you, like, people don't understand that. It's like, listen, man, if you're like looking to throw whatever X mile an hour, and you're only basing your training off of that, it's a recipe for disaster. Because it's just every day you have to go in there with the same mindset. Like, I'm getting 1% better isn't that hard. It's 14 minutes every day. It's 14 minutes. 14 minutes a day for 365 days out of the year.
there's no excuse.
There's really no excuse. I mean, people tell me all the time, like, there's so many guys. I know we're kind of getting off the pitching track here, but there's just over the last 3 years here, like, I've never seen a team not lift as much as some guys on our team. And it's no knock on anyone, but it just baffles me like
It's fine. I
how,
was there.
yeah, how lazy some people are. Like, you get 4 years, and yeah, there might be the lucky dude that gets 6 or 7, but let's be honest here. After COVID's over, that all that crap's done, no one gets like the 5, 6 years anymore. You get 4 years of baseball. That's it.
Yeah.
And it's insane to me that guys will just sit in their room and or just do nothing. And it's like, why are you here? Like, you're wasting everyone's time. We're trying to win a championship. We're trying to do great things, and you're wasting coaches' time, the players' time, the people that believe in you time. Like, this is like an everyday thing, and it's like, I don't know. It is what it is, but like, I think the D3 level especially, there's guys that just like are there for baseball. Then there's the guys that are there for the partying, the baseball, and the girls, the everything else. It's different for like D1 and D2 and JUCO, because those dudes, I feel like, and NAI, I just feel like, no knock on D3, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm going to ask you this question. Do you think D3 baseball, like, do you think it's, I don't think everyone's bought in. And, what do you think about that?
Well, there's certainly a discrepancy in talent at the D3 level. I mean, there's really good D3 teams, and then there's really bad D3 teams. So those top level teams, those guys are in. And I actually grew up playing against a guy who ended up being a D3 national champion. And I know him a little bit, and that dude works his ass off. I think he's military. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's just like one of those things where low level D3, it's not that hard to make a team. You could be an average high school baseball player and play D3 baseball at a crappy school. And you can just kind of get away with doing the bare minimum. You probably won't play that much, but
It's just about putting a jersey on at that point, if you know what I mean.
that's exactly it. It's like you get there your freshman year. I said it last time. It's like, all right, I can say I play college baseball. Now what? And the guys that actually give a shit with their baseball career, and
Yeah.
they're more than saying that they play college baseball, then those guys will
Yeah.
actually get better.
Because I've trained with the pro guys. I've trained with the Division 1 guys, the Division 2, the JUCO guys, and like they're just different, man. They just have that. They're all good up here. They all have the explosiveness. They're all very working very hard, and they have an attention to detail. And like guys, like there are many guys that I've played with. Won't name drop, but many guys I've played with, and it's like you won't even see them in the gym unless we have morning workouts. You won't see them at the field unless we got practice or games. You won't even see them outside of their room except for baseball. And it's like
We're thinking of the same guys.
we're giving up on we're giving up on each other. It's like it's a slap in the face to me. It's a slap in the face to everybody else.
Slap in the face of the guys that were there before you that should be teaching you better.
Yeah, it's like people work their ass off, and then you got those few, and you're only as good as your weakest link.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in that. Really strong believer in that
Yeah,
as a coach.
we're trying to. I mean, I'll put this on record. I don't know when I'm going to put this out, but hopefully, my goal is to win the NAC championship this year, and you know,
Are you able to extend time on this?
maybe I don't know. I got to upgrade a pro.
Can you just blend them together after? You're
Yeah,
not going to get to nearly your questions.
huh?
You're going to blend them together after because we're not going to get to nearly all your questions in four
I think I
minutes.
got through all. We got to talk about command and velo, but I got through everything else. If you want to talk about it another time, I don't care.
Talk about command and velo.
All right, all right.
You can always extend it. Just add them
Yeah.
together and you
Yeah. So, fuck, what were we talking about? Shit.
command and velo.
Right now?
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Or you can end it here and then put it
yeah,
on a
I'll
new.
end it. Should I end it here?
Yeah.
All right. I'll stop recording.